Remember when we drilled holes in the wrong spot in the tile?
Yeah.
And then we flooded your kitchen? Wasn't that fun? The neighbor had to bring the wrench to turn the water off at the street.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then also Brett didn't install the sink underneath. He didn't shut that off all the way, and that flooded a little bit under there too. Remember that? Do you remember
Oh
that part?
gosh.
Brett had to come back.
Yep. And
I
then
guess there was a few little bumps.
wasn't the shower glass the wrong size too?
Yes.
But then you
Yeah,
still
that
hired
was
us to build your deck. Judy and I know each other from construction. We did some work at her house. And what I always appreciated, as you've heard, we ran into tons of problems and mostly our fault.
Yeah,
But
yeah, totally.
I always admired your perspective through all of it. And every hiccup along the way, you were just laughing. And I remember
Well,
thinking
yeah.
how are you laughing at this? Because for me, that was really stressful. And then even Drew and I were going over last year's jobs, and we came to your jobs, and we just we reflected and was like, these were probably the sloppiest jobs we did all year.
Well, no, it was just interesting things. We hit some bumps. Nothing was on purpose. It was
Right.
just, it's one of those things that just happens. And you just got to ride
Yeah.
with it and not trip on it. Because, you're going to look back and say that it got fixed. What's the big deal?
Well, our saving
Nobody,
grace was you were cool about it. Not everybody has a perspective and is able to laugh at stuff like that. Well, a little bit about Unspecial. I taught special ed for 7 years, and I never thought I would step away. But when we moved to Sandpoint, the pay scale is just not very good. So I had to step away and start construction to support the fam. But it never left me. Special ed was just my jam. I loved hanging out with my students. God gave me some gifts in it, and I knew I couldn't just ignore that. So Unspecial has been on my mind for years, and coming here to San Diego, just realizing that the community for folks with special needs kids was kind of slacking. And I thought it would be cool to have a podcast to hear people's stories and then hopefully inspire other parents and then really just get everyone talking together in community.
yeah.
I know when I was teaching, it's kind of like districts, school districts, they don't really encourage parent community too much because it causes somewhat of a strife because you get all parents together and then what one kid is receiving from the school and services and then theirs isn't. So then it can kind of start a little bit of a deal, but I don't teach anymore. So I'm free to make the space for parents. So that's kind of the inspiration with Unspecial. But tell me about yourself. I want to get into your journey and how you have such an amazing perspective on life. Who are you?
I'm,
What's your...
as you know, Judy Manning. I'm from Sagal, Idaho, but my husband was in the military. So we were in San Diego for 20 plus years and then decided to retire up here. He's still working at the border right now. So, but yeah, I come from a big family of 10 kids and I've always loved children and did a lot of fostering. And with the foster care kids, they always come with issues because it's just a tough life.
Yeah.
So I've always did a lot of that, took care of a lot of my nieces because nieces and nephews. When my husband and I are first married and didn't have kids because they come from a pretty harsh life with a lot of drug use and all that kind of stuff. So I've been around that block quite a bit with kids and their special needs. And then we adopted and fostered and we adopted Jace right out of the hospital.
Wow.
When he was little. And we said, we'll take any baby. Well, any baby that needs us. And he thrived for the first few years. He did really well. He came home at 4.11 ounces.
Okay.
And yeah, within a couple of weeks, he was up 10 pounds, doubled his weight, and he did real well. But as a mom, you see these things. And he was diagnosed with Crohn's, just to let you know where I'm going with this. And he was diagnosed at 3 years and 11 months, which is super young at Children's Hospital in San Diego. But they kept telling me over and over, look, he's got the flu, he's got this. And I'm like, I know something is up. As a mom, you just know those things.
Right.
And it's not that really the doctor's fault. We have to be their advocate because the doctors see, maybe 100 kids a day, sometimes at least 20, and they're doing what they think is best. But he was my only baby. I knew I was with him every day. He was tired. He was thin. He didn't look good. So I fought for it. And I said, no, I want tests run. And lo and behold, they said he is just riddled with sores throughout his body, his intestines. So they admitted him to the hospital to find out what was wrong. And
And
it
he's
took us a
3 years
week.
old.
Yeah, he was 10 days before his 4th birthday, and we just made it out of the hospital before his 4th birthday. But he was on steroids. He couldn't eat certain things. And it was a rough 4th birthday, honestly.
Yeah.
But at least I was able to bring my child home. And I knew that there was a lot of parents that left the hospital without their kids. So yeah, I tend to try to think of more of the positive because
Yeah.
you can't just dwell on all the negative stuff because it'll literally eat you alive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where our journey started, is with that.
Uh-huh. And then so after he came home, and then what's catch me
It,
up to where he is now?
it was having a child on really hardcore steroids. I had to call my husband and say, you have to come home. I can't. He would like kind of bang on the fridge, and he wanted to eat constantly. And he did puff up a lot. You could kind of tell that he was on steroids, which it didn't matter what he looked like, but his personality changed quite a bit because he was just constantly enraged, he was such a sweet, gentle kid that, it was just opposite. So I'd have to call my husband and say, I need a break. I need you to come home. And that was really tough because I didn't want to ask for help, but I knew if I didn't get a break, that I would break. So they were really good in the military. They let him come home.
Okay.
And, I was able to take off and walk a little bit, but I would say the first 6 months with him on those steroids to heal his body was really rough. And I didn't have anybody, and this is why I love this platform. I didn't have anybody to say, hey, what's your kid going through, or what, I didn't have anything to compare it to or how to deal with it. I just, you just hang in there, you just take it day by day and hang in there and don't think about the next day. You wake up the next day, it could be completely different. So I didn't trip, tomorrow, what am I going to do? What if he does this? I just worked on that day, getting through that day. You can't,
that's huge. I know for the parents listening, that's got to be such a comforting mindset to have, because I know my wife, or the mom heart, is definitely you want to do everything and anything for your kid, but just to pause and to be real with yourself and say, I need a break.
Yeah. And I also I made a lot of mistakes, but you have to learn from them, because I know I was like, what do you want? I felt like that sometimes. That's why I knew, I have to step away, because this is not how to direct the way I'm feeling, not towards him, because he can't help it. So that's when I knew I needed to reach out, and you have to reach out. And I know as a mom, I'm like, I don't need help. I can do this. I could do it all by myself. It's just one child. People are dealing with 5 or 6 kids. Why can't I just focus on this one? But it's not a physical thing. It's more of an emotional thing that tears you apart. I was tough. I could handle it, but I needed to take a deep breath and walk, and then come back and go, okay, I'm ready for round 2 or whatever,
Right.
And that's one thing you really need to step away, and you have to say, I need help. And that's, as a mom, I know dads can do that a little bit, but moms want to do everything on their own.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing I learned when he was younger, and he eventually did get better. And then he was diagnosed with Asperger's, which is a whole nother, nother thing, which I enjoy it. He is the smartest. He's like Elon Musk Asperger's. He's the smartest, one of the smartest people I know.
Wow.
With that, though, it comes with challenges, because I can't tell him anything because he knows everything. So to have both those, to work with has been, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah. What will you break down Crohn's and Asperger's?
Yes. Crohn's, here's my shirt.
Mama Bear.
Mama Bear. because that's exactly how I felt. I had to, I was my kid's advocate totally. And my husband was working. So he did get better. He was on a lot of medication, sulfasalazine. He's been on so many medications, but he did get better from like 6 until he was 14. And then when we moved up here, he hit adolescence and his Crohn's came back just with a vengeance. And the interesting thing is right before we left, he has always done Krav Maga, and he was getting his junior black belt. And what they do is they attack you and at a park in front of, and he has to break free and run to his parents. And he gets literally attacked. But I remember thinking, he is weak. Something's going on. You just know, again, as a mom, I'm like, this is not normal. And I thought maybe it's just he was getting flu or something, but we watched it. And then I would say within a year, he went really lost weight. And I knew. So we eventually took him to the children's hospital up here in Spokane. And they said, yeah, they did a scope, and they saw that his digestive tract has Crohn's. Hits everybody. Everybody's different. With any disease, though, everybody is different. With his, it affected his eyes a little bit. It's just like having sores throughout your digestive tract. So when he eats, he can't absorb the good stuff, the nutrition. He doesn't get nutrition. So he was losing weight rapidly. He got down to 89 pounds at 5'5". And that's when it was like a Friday. And my husband, God bless him, he was like, well, let's just wait till Monday. You know what it's like? And I said, I'm not waiting. 9 pounds is not going to work for me. And because even the doctor was like, well, come in, I'll get you in Monday morning. I go, no, I'm just giving you a heads up. We're heading to the emergency room in Spokane. That's where we'll be. I'll let you know. And they admitted him immediately. He was his white blood cell count was through the roof. They did a scope and he had tons of sores again. So and that's when our big journey that we're in right now has begun.
Was he in pain through all that?
Oh, it is. It's like ulcers. Like if you have one ulcer, he had like 40 ulcers to his digestive tract, and that he would run temperatures. He'd get, he is just weak, tired. He's just constantly in pain and sick, and they'd put him on steroids. He has been through so many different medications that none of them work. Nothing's working. So they ended up giving him, he's got a feeding tube in his stomach. He got that 3 years ago. So he does supplemental feeding. They used to put it on an IV pole and he'd pump it through the night. But now he does bolus feedings where we got a big syringe and he goes through that. But even before that, when he got out of the hospital, he was on a TPN, which is total parental nutrition. And he was on that for 2 months. And that means no food by mouth for 2 months. It was all being fed through his vein. And they sent me home to take care of that. And yeah. And they're like, oh, and make sure. And I had to mix, it was IV. I had to mix nutrition up through the IV bag. And then also my countertop, I was super paranoid because when you're putting it together to hook him up to his IV, because he had a track through his arm, and you cannot let anything touch that. And if it does, that whole bag has to be thrown away. And those bags we had pretty good insurance, but those whole bags are like $400 or $500. A couple of times I did that. And my husband's like, I don't think it really touched. And I go, where you hook it up through the vein. If that hits the counter or you touch it with your hands or anything, that's going through his vein. So you cannot, that pumps through his heart and then through his body. So you cannot mess that up.
No.
So I've thrown a couple of those. I was like, I'm not chancing that. But for them to send me home, they gave me a 30-minute lesson on how to do it. And of course I go home and I forget absolutely everything. I'm like, so I had to Google and YouTube and they had a nurse to help me. But the first night, funny enough, that I was hooking him up, because you hook him up during the night and it gets pumped through his body through the night through a pump, I could not get the IV hooked up. It would not, for some reason. And I was like freaking out. So we had to drive to Bonner's at 11 o'clock at night. in the emergency room. We brought everything in there, and I'm like panicking. Of course, I'm trying not to cry, but I'm crying like I suck. I should know how to do this. This is my kid. They taught me. How did I forget this morning? Because they just released us from the hospital. How did I already forget? I don't understand. Sorry. Here you go. Here's a treat. My emotional support dog. He's wonderful. We went to Bonner's, and thank God the nurse there was awesome. And, not all nurses, they're human. They have bad days too. So I try not to, and I ran into a few of those, but she was fantastic. She's like, hey, Mom, it's okay. You're right. It got stuck. For some reason, I was just scared to push real hard, to hook him up, because what if it popped his vein? It was just, and she got it. She goes, it just got a little stuck. You were right to come down here. You did good. So here they took us right in, but that was our first night home from the hospital with the total parental nutrition.
My heart rate is
so that
up.
was that's and then to have that.
I don't know that feeling, but somewhat with my fourth kid coming home when he was released from the NICU, and having my wife not able to care for him. So it's me. Thankfully, my mother-in-law's here, but I didn't do anything with the other three kids. And
you had to learn.
He was that first night, he still had the apnea, so he would stop breathing for 15 seconds. And then he was only home for a week, and then he got a cold, stopped breathing, turning blue.
Oh my gosh.
And just that helpless feeling of like the life is in your hands.
Yeah, you gotta just not kill him.
That was my goal every night.
Yeah.
Just make it to the morning.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. It's just, you can't, I learned not to, worry about next week or 2 days from now we have this. I'm really trying to live in the moment and worry about what I'm dealing with today, because that's enough.
Yeah, definitely.
It's enough.
So how old is he now? 20?
He's 20. He's 20 now. And like I was talking about, we haven't been able to get this under control, and they ended up doing an MRI because he has an ileostomy bag. I didn't even mention that. Now they gave him an ileostomy bag and cut some bad stuff out, and they were hoping to get him healed and then do a reversal. He's just been declining and struggling doing the bolus feeding. So they decided we ended up, I wanted to go to the Mayo Clinic, and that's 2 years ago. That's where I was going to go. I'm like, I'm going, I'll sell my truck, whatever I have to do. That's what we're doing. So I researched and I looked up where the best place is for Crohn's, and it was in Minnesota. And I looked that up, and I looked all the doctors up and where they are. Lo and behold, Dr. Johnson is out of Coeur d'Alene. Whoa. And he did his rotation for Crohn's specialty out of that clinic. Mayo Clinic in Minnesota.
Okay.
So I already had an appointment. I was just looking up doctors. They got me in. We were supposed to go in 6 weeks, trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with money wise? I'll figure it out, But then I called Dr. Johnson's office, and they said, oh yeah, we're 2-3 months out. So I told them exactly what was going on with Jace, and I go, just listen to me. This is what's going on. I found him through the Mayo Clinic where he did his rotation. Before we go, I'd love to see if you guys can get us in just to see if we're doing the right thing, or maybe he's got something and we're going in 6 weeks. And she goes, I'll call you back. Let me see what I can do. She talked to Dr. Johnson, called me back and said, we'll see you tomorrow on his lunch break at noon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the unique situation Jace, that they wanted to see him. And that I'm like, okay, let's do this. So we've been with Dr. Johnson for the last couple of years. Right after he got his ileostomy bag, that's when we started seeing him. So he's had that for 2 years. Dr. Johnson said, listen, we've tried everything and we can't figure out what it is. We want to do an MRI, because once they put the ileostomy bag in, they cut the bad stuff out. They did a scope and it showed that, oh, wow, that did heal up there. So he is pretty healed, because you can get it from the tips of your lips all the way down to your bottom. It's the whole digestive tract. But everything was healed except for his bottom part. And they're wondering, why is he getting so sick? Why is that? why it moved down to his bottom. And they did an MRI and they diagnosed him with perianal Crohn's, which is the worst that you can have. So he gets fistures, and those fistures are now burrowing out of his body. So not only does he obviously has an anus like all of us, but he doesn't go to the bathroom out of there because he has his ileostomy bag. But not only that, his Crohn's has moved to that part, and now it's burrowing out of his body. So he has more than just his anus. He has a couple other holes down there, as big as a pea size. And he's in extreme amount of pain. Now, we just got the news like a month ago that they do want to make this permanent. They need to take everything out down there and want to make it they call it a Barbie butt, where he'll never have a chance to ever have that reversed. And that has been for a 20-year-old, his whole thing was, okay, let's do this. And then once I get better, we'll reverse it. And I can go back to the gym, I can get better. But to have this news has really rocked our world. Yeah. So the surgeon, he's awesome. He goes, look, we'll go in and we'll look. And if there's a way of keeping it, for a while longer and not make this permanent, I'll do that for you. But in the meantime, he has to repair everything down there because it's his whole bottom, and they're going to have to put a drain in the holes because they have to keep that open, just like any type of hole that you have. A lot of times, like even with an animal, if you don't want the bacteria to close, and so they're going to have to put a drain in. So that happens on the 14th, and we probably won't know what's going to happen until the day of the surgery, and the doctor will come out and let us know, what exactly is what he did. So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. That's a lot.
Yeah, well,
that's a lot.
It's our journey.
Yeah.
I know I do. And my son, Jace, is a beautiful writer. He writes a lot about this. And I am, not that he probably enjoys me talking about this. He's like, Mom. But I'm like, Jace, I'm going through something too. I have a journey too.
Yeah.
I'm not just your mom. I'm your caregiver. I'm doing many things. And I need an outlet. I need a way of doing it. Yours is writing, and you're doing a beautiful job of that. And he also has a lot of online support. Okay. Because he doesn't really leave his room much. But his online support, he has a lot of kids that read the Bible. He's a huge Christian. He loves God. He can quote scriptures. I think that's what got him through most of this. It's just saying, look, there's a plan. We don't really like the plan, but like I said, you take it day by day, and one day we'll look back and go, okay, that's where we were going with this. It's hard. We're in a hard spot right now.
Yeah.
That's why we got to take it day by day, and a light will go off and go, that's why we had to go through all this.
Yeah. It's interesting when you look back on stuff like this, and it's like, it makes sense, Yeah. But how do you process all this?
Honestly, I go in the shower and I cry. That's my spot, because then, it's warm, hot water, and you can cry and get it out. Then you get out of the shower and you're like, okay, now, what are we going to do today? We started watching a series. This is just Rich and I, his dad, and Jace and I we always get into a series. We just started watching Dexter. It's a little creepy, but it's something we do. It's a little creepy, but I'm kind of getting into it.
We used to binge that in college.
Yeah, we just started watching it. But it's something we do as a family together, where we can discuss it and talk and take us away from what we're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we process it. And I play pickleball, and that's what I do.
Right.
That's my outlet. I go, I have 2 hours, probably 4 days a week. I go and get that out. Jace doesn't usually get up till about 1. He stays up late online writing. He's writing a book. So he sleeps in a lot, and this disease keeps him pretty tired. Yeah. So by the time he gets up, I'm done. I'm back from pickleball. I've done a few chores, and we'll hang out and watch a few things. And then he'll write. He comes down, and I do make up his formula. He's got nutritional boxes that he does bolus feeding, and I add some protein to it and all that. And that's what I do for him there. And then some of the bigger things like he'll want, I'll cook for him. But other than that, he cares for himself. He changes his own bag. When he came home from the hospital, they wouldn't let us leave until I learned how to change it. And honestly, I was like, this is insane.
Freaky.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And now I'm like, I look at everything. That I'm his mom. I'm his mommy. That's how I don't care how old he'll get. He's always going to be my baby. And he's like, Mom, I'm 20. And I'm like, you're always going to be 2, 4, 6. You're always going to be little to me. And I'm always going to want to care for you.
Right.
But there's a fine line that you have to walk because you can't. My dog would like another treat. I apologize. It's working.
It's all good.
Say hi, Vinny. That's my emotional support dog.
What's up, Vinny?
He knows too when Mom's upset, and he'll just put his head on my lap. And I think having an animal has been very helpful for all of us. He's really in tune to Jace too, but not to get off track. He had to learn his bag. A stoma is where they take your intestines and they create a hole in your stomach and they bring your intestines on the outside. So when he eats or takes in anything, it goes into the bag. And when he came home, I had to change it. And I'll tell you, both of us fought like crazy because if I was taking, because it sticks to your skin, and I was taking it off too quick. I wasn't doing it right. And, it was new to both of us. And I had to say, Jace, for a while there, I was like, I'd get mad and say, well, you know what, just do it yourself then, because I was frustrated. I'm going through something too. I know it's him, but I'm a mom and it was killing me, watch him going through this. So I had to tell him, you know what, Jace, I need a minute. Okay. We're arguing. We're not getting anywhere. I can't help you change your bag if we're fighting. Does it, just let me walk away for a second. And then I'd come back in and I'd help him, but he does it himself now. So, and something important too, he also sees like a therapist online, and it's Journey. It's up here where I live. It's called Journey. It's for kids that are dealing with a lot, special needs, from just dealing with a lot in your family, or they truly have some kind of special needs, Asperger's, or on a spectrum somewhere. Journey has helped us a lot. And we've been with the same gal since we moved up here, since Jace was 16. And they've been fantastic helping us. And getting him his own person is important. And having somebody I can talk to is also important. Separate, not just both of us together.
I mean, it's huge that you pointed out that you're on a journey too. It's not, as the main caregiver, you have a story and a journey that's not, to compare how hard it is or whatever it is, it's a journey and it has its challenges. Tell me about Asperger's.
When Jace was little, he was just a regular kid, but like in first grade, we had to learn his words like, at school or whatever. And I'd just show him the word and he'd pick it up like that. He also was in Good News Club, and he'd read the Bible and then he'd know the scripture. I'm like, he's got like a photo, his mind, he could just pick it up. And I'm like, everybody thinks their kid's special, but I'm like, dang, he didn't miss one spelling word in first grade. And then I saw he would just talk to me about, he'd go, when it rains, Mom, I just remember him being little. He just had an older perspective on life. Very unique about when it rains, Mom, I think God wants to wash us a little bit from a lot of things, our fears, our pain, our hurt. And I'm like, okay, this is a 5, 6-year-old. So I knew, but I didn't know what it was. But then the older he got, we saw a neurologist. And the neurologist diagnosed him with that. And then I read up on it and went, my gosh, at first I thought, like, really? Another thing? This is ridiculous. And I was talking to the neurologist and he goes, just to let you know, I was diagnosed with Asperger's. And that's why I became a neurologist. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool. If this neurologist has Asperger's, then, maybe one day my son's going to make me rich, he's going to, I figured I knew he's going to do something awesome, because Asperger's takes on many different things, but he's The best way I can say is describe it as totally like Elon Musk, very matter of fact with how he speaks. And he knows things. He doesn't just speak off and say whatever he thinks. He researches, he looks into it. And 9 out of 10 times he's 100% correct. Because I'd be like, no, Jace, that's I'm like, well, I better back off a little bit and see if he's right. But he is right. Elon Musk, if you watch him, he just talks a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And he says what he believes, and he doesn't really care how anybody else feels about it. And that can be harsh too, because sometimes Jason's like, well, that's just the way it is. He has perspective on, and it comes with being very religious, but he's very much a man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's how God made you. And I go, I know, Jace, but sometimes we let people, he goes, no, that's how it is. This is how we are, and I let him, and I'm with them on that too. But I also, if somebody came to me like that, I wouldn't like stand there and argue with them for 20 minutes. Jace would stand there and say, this is how you are. This is how God made you. And I'm like, okay, great. Nice to meet you, Kim or Jeff or whatever. I'd be cool with it and I'd let it go. Asperger's are very much matter of fact, 100%. This is the way it is. And that could be a little bit tough sometimes, I think.
How has it affected his friends or peer groups? Or how does he navigate that whole scene?
Being younger, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
I know in junior high, he had some difficulty because his friends would be more carefree, joking around, having fun. But he's always been very serious. He's got a great sense of humor, by the way. So don't get me wrong on that. He's very funny. But when it comes to like being at school, you're at school, you're there to learn. And that's how it is, which is great because he got excellent grades. 8th grade, he got an award for poetry. It was their first award. So he did. So think about it. A young man in 8th grade gets an award for poetry. That's a little bit unusual. So, while the other kids are getting awards for baseball, this, that, not, he's very athletic, but he's a very deep thinker. And when he graduated from high school, going through all this in and out of the hospital, he even went to high school with a feeding tube through his nose before they placed it in his stomach. So it was taped to his face. And he went like, I think without Asperger's, another kid would be like, no way am I going to show up to school with this. He's like, yep, this is how I am. This is what I have. Wow. And now let's get to schoolwork. Let's do this. So he's very matter of fact about things. And when he graduated, there's 3 speakers, and he was one of the speakers. And he also did the Pledge of Allegiance. And then he wrote a poem about when you graduate and what to look forward to. So it was a very proud moment to watch him up there battling everything and then graduating in and out of the hospital. Yeah. Graduating with like a 3.75, going through the COVID thing too. So, I mean, he had all these challenges and that's why I know he's strong and he's going to do fine with this. It's just, we're right in the middle of a storm.
Yeah.
And we'll get through it.
Yeah. Do you look back on the previous storms that kind of fuel you to keep perspective in this one?
They seem so tiny. It seems that this is like I would say, one of our biggest challenges that we've had to do. And, I think the hardest part is watching my son feel sad, like immensely sad. The pain stuff, we can get through that. That's a physical thing. But the mental part of watching him hurt and be defeated feeling is very painful for a parent to watch. Because you're only as happy as your saddest kid's day. He's my one child. So his saddest day, his happiest day is a happy day for me. But when he's sad, and he's going through something, it breaks my heart. I can't comfort him. And as a parent, you're supposed to fix it.
How do you deal with that, not being able to fix it?
Wow, you want me to say something if I had the right thing, like, you know what I do? I just get up every day and I literally just take it moment by moment. There is no magical word. Everybody's going to process it different. So if I had something like pickleball, which sounds weird, but I go and I laugh and I have fun and they know what I'm going through and they've been having friends like that is a huge support. They go, do you want to talk? And I go, nope, I want to play. And they'll give me a hug and they said, okay, let me beat you. I'm going to kick your butt or whatever.
Yeah.
And we laugh. And I'm going to say, that's the only advice I have. I don't have any magical words or any way to tell somebody how to get through things, because you just got to get up and do it. For kid, I'd walk through fire for him. I always think about this. Like, if the world was washed with water and I had to hold my son up to have him survive, I would do that. I think most mothers would. I drowned to hold him up.
Yeah.
Keep him alive. And I feel like that's what I'm kind of doing some days, is I feel like I'm drowning to hold him up. And that's what you got to do. Get through each day.
That's
Just
intense.
hold your kid up.
How does your husband deal with all of it?
He works
And
a
you're
lot.
still married, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, we have our.
You're an anomaly. This is not
32
common.
years.
Like, I think the stat for parents with children with any disease or disability or whatnot, it's like divorce rate is astronomical. But 32 years.
Like 32 years. But a good example, like, I'm learning, like last night, you could tell your kid's frustrated. Sometimes he's in a good mood and things are going well and everything's good. And it's like, okay, because he goes, we'll get through this, Mom. We'll get through this. We're starting to kind of come to terms with what could be, which is fine. But I know when he has bad days, and I know when he's angry, and I know that when he lashes out at me, I'm learning that it's not personal. Like before, I don't want him to turn into a little shit type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't baby him, too much. Like, he'll say, Mom, can you give me some water? And I'll say, well, you got good legs, don't you? Can't you get up? So there's a fine line. I want to baby him. I told him if I had like a grown up sling that I could put him in and carry him around, I would. But that wouldn't be doing him justice. It wouldn't be teaching him to go forward. I think that's the hardest part between my husband and I, is my husband works and he comes home and he'll be going up and down the stairs to help Jace with something. Like, oh, he wants a smoothie, so I'm going to come get it for him. And yeah, a little bit. Go ahead and do that. But then there's a time where you got to say, you know what, Jace, I already got you a smoothie. I'm not coming to bring you ice water now, too. You need to come down. And he'll get mad. You know what I'm going through? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But please don't. And I'm getting really good, because before I get mad back and we'd fight. Don't do that to me. Don't talk to me that way. Last night we had an issue where my husband started getting mad. Like, why are you talking like that? Knock it off. I just pulled him aside and I said, we need to keep our voices lowered. I'm really working on that, because I'm a yeller. I just am. I always have been. I'm like, are you kidding? So I'm trying to talk calmly. And I just said, you know what? No, Jace. It was something about the show. We were watching Dexter. Pause it. Don't pause it. Blah, blah, blah. But he was trying to take control. And I go, Jace, I'm still running this house. This is still my house. You still live here. I'm taking care of you. And I just repeat over and over, and I love you very much. But for you to tell us what to do is not going to work for us. And I'm really learning. And I just pull my husband aside and I go, let's not yell. So I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. So my husband and I have to be a team, but we're the captain of Jace's team, basically. This is all about Jace, but we also know what's best for him. As a captain of a team, you know what's best with your player. They're not going to always like it, but you gotta do it. And to tell him to get up and get his own water or whatever is making him move around a little bit. So I know that's what's best for him. But to be a team, my husband and I got to say, hey, he's got legs. He can get it. My husband just wants to go like, I know, but I didn't see him all day. I want to baby him. I'm like, I get that too, a little bit, then back off. So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to work through it. But we've had many years of, for people that are going through this brand new, just hang in there. And find out what works best for you guys.
In the early days, like finding out all the news, and you process things different than he processes things, but still coming together and communicating, staying on the same page, I'm sure had to been challenge. And I'm sure each of you had your own thoughts and opinions on how to go about it.
Yeah. And I definitely recommend being an advocate to go, like, sometimes I'm like, just go to the doctor's. Boys, you guys go to the doctor's appointment yourself because it's an hour away. And Dr. Johnson sees them like once a month. And they'll go down there and they have guy time and they listen to their little podcasts or whatever. They're into politics and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, just go. You guys go down there and have fun. But I've learned as a mother, when I'm in there, I know exactly what's going on. The guys come home and they're like, oh,
What happened?
I don't know. What'd he say? Jace, what'd he say? So the husbands probably, I think moms pay attention a little bit more, but the My Chart's really good because they put notes in there. So I could just look stuff up, but it is kind of funny because the boys just go down there like, oh, we stopped and got lunch on the way home. And I'm like, no, how'd the appointment go? What went on there? And they're like, oh, well, I think things are good or whatever. So being an advocate, I think moms are a little bit more into what exactly is going on. And husbands kind of tend to like, oh, the mom's got it. And that can be frustrating a little bit too, I think. But that's just a mom and a dad's role, I think, sometimes. I'm traditional. I think moms handle everything. I didn't get the nickname the handler for nothing. So, because I always, people go, oh, Judy will handle it. But it's overwhelming. It could be overwhelming. But Rich has his role. He's a good dad. He's a buddy. And that's what Jace needs, is a good buddy. And we both have our roles, I think. But the main thing is we do have to communicate and work together. Yeah. That's important. Communication.
I mean, I think that's huge. Just knowing your roles in this whole thing, and then you don't cross over.
No. And I let Rich helps a lot. Like sometimes I'm like, can you make up his for me? Because you got to mix it up and put it in, and that's what we do for Jace because he hooks it up and does it, and then also make sure he's taking his medication. And sometimes I'm like, can you do it? Can you do it for him? I'm gonna go take a shower. So Rich, he works all day, but then he comes home and he'll still do that. But I want him to do that because he needs, God forbid something happened to me. I mean, these boys will be like, oh, what do I do? And I go, I'm trying to teach you, I might not be around forever either. So I do most of it, but I also include dad in a lot of it too. So when I need a break, he's like, well, I've never done that, or I didn't know that. Yeah, moms, go ahead and handle it. But get them involved in the stuff too, because you need a couple of days away. Last year, I took 6 days off for my birthday. Went to San Diego, visited some friends, and they were literally panicking. And I'm like, you know what? Just keep yourselves alive. That's all I can ask. I'll come home, clean the house, whatever. And I needed the break. And I literally slept through the night at my girlfriend's house. I did sleep through the night, and I don't sleep through the night anymore when I'm home. Because as a mom knows, every little noise, I don't know if my son's getting up, getting sick, whatever. So I'm always got one eye open and one ear open listening. But being on that break really helped me recharge myself a little bit. And I recommend, even if it's a night away.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
You were able to unplug and relax?
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Super important.
Yeah.
And then I felt stronger coming back, actually. I really think you do get depleted. You just get drained as much as you get up and think you can do it all. Your body does get drained. It mainly is my mind. I start not being able to think straight and being able to take a deep breath, sleep through the night, knowing that, that I'm not going to be woke up in the middle of the night because I'm not home. So I know I can sleep. About 4 months ago, I went to Spokane and met a girlfriend there, and we had a couple nights away there. So I recommend doing even one night, just because I don't have a life. My life is my son, regardless of what kind of situation your child's going through. Moms feel that way. And sometimes I need to figure out who I am a little bit too and take myself back. And that's nice to recharge a little bit.
Well, it's like that analogy of filling your cup. If you're just operating on empty all the time, you're more than likely not showing up the best version of yourself. But for you, like pickleball, showers, whatnot, those little things fill it up just to be able to show up 100% for Jace and for Rich. How do you balance all the medical stuff.
Oh gosh, I wish I was a little bit better at it, but
Because that's a job in itself.
it is. And my chart's huge. Now I
Uh-huh.
just my chart has everything in there, all his test results, everything. And I don't recommend doing Google too much, but you do, like, I learned a lot about when they said perianal Crohn's. So I was like, what? And then, of course, in the doctor's office, they explained it. But then again, you're shocked and you go home, you're like, what? But you
What?
can look
Yeah.
it up and research. And I recommend, actually, there's a lot of people I follow on Facebook that have an ileostomy bag. And the kid with the bag is one. He's really good. I think he's from Australia. And he just had a reversal. So I really try to focus on what actual other people are going through
Yeah.
and learning a little bit about their medical journey so I know what to expect. I think that's important. But the my chart thing, I'm going to be honest with you, I think my chart thing's the biggest. You know, all the notes are in there. There's just no way you can, you know, old school. I started doing a folder, you know, when this first started happening. And I'm like, what page, where? And that's just old school stuff. But the my chart thing has been so awesome. And we communicate back and forth, the doctor and I can ask him questions like the surgeon hasn't gotten a hold of me and he goes, he literally messages me and says, I have his cell phone. I'm going to text him so he can reach out to you. So I think if you guys have whoever has a kid going through medical issues, the my chart thing, getting hooked up with that has been the biggest savior for me, medical wise. You know,
Tell
you can
tell
pay
me
bills
about your.
online, everything.
Yeah, my chart is very handy. It's an app.
Do you have that too?
Yeah, app on
Yeah.
the phone. Kind of keeps everything together.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they put it in folders for you. So you can look at
right.
the next appointment. You can make appointments. You could read the notes from the last appointment. So yeah, I think that's the best thing that was ever created, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about your community, and I know you have a Facebook group that I joined,
Yeah.
Crohn's disease Facebook group
Yeah.
that has a handful of people in there. What other kind of community do you have? Or also tell me about that group.
Yeah, that group, it started actually, Jace does not have social media. He's like really kind of against that, which I love. But I like that he doesn't have any of that. He does a little bit of YouTube because he writes books and he does a lot of that kind of stuff. But on Facebook, people were asking like, oh my gosh, what's going on with Jace? Well, I'm the type of person, I like being real positive on Facebook, like, you know, Merry Christmas. And so I don't want to put all kinds of personal stuff on Facebook where, you know, like the person I met in a grocery store that checks me out, she doesn't need to know about Jace's journey, you know, but his friends, I've got a lot of his parents that I was friends with when Jace was in school that knew about his diagnosis. Two of his teachers are on there. They know about Jace's journey. It helps me because I can get the support I need. People know what's going on. Like, man, I like called her, I text her, she's not getting back to me. You know, I don't want to talk about it. I'm having a rough day, but they could see on like the Facebook page, it's private and it's only from an invite. The people that actually either know Jace or know me. And that way I don't have to explain things over and over to people like, what's going on with Jace? I can just put that in there and they know, ooh, she's having a tough week. You know, this is what's going on. And they can just text me or message me saying, hey, you need anything, you know, and that's been helpful. It's like kind of like a journal type of thing that helps. I think writing things down and your frustrations and letting people know where you're at is important too. But I keep that kind of private because on my regular page, I want people to see my Christmas tree, my cute dogs and things like that. I don't think that's something you need to vent to people you barely know.
Right.
Yeah. So I do that for myself and to let people know, like his cousins, his aunts and uncles, they can all go on there and find out when his surgery date is, what kind of test results they'll ask, and I'll say, hey, I put it on my page on Jace's journey, put it on my page, go read up on it. And I put test results on there and stuff like that. So that's been helpful too.
Yeah. Well, and just the awareness to knowing that you need that yourself.
Yeah.
And providing that, like, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's a certain level of vulnerability, even though it's people you know, but still being able to be open because you know it's good for you.
Right. Well, this is also my life too, you know, so if I like I know you put a lot, you're an awesome contractor, and a lot of your stuff that you do contracting, that's kind of your life. And you put that on there, and I love seeing it. Like, wow, look at Zack just built this, and this is my life right now. And this is what I'm living on, literally not day to day. It's literally hour to hour. Every minute revolves around something with what Jace is going through right now. So it's important for me to talk about it and let it out. But I'm not doing it, like I said, at the grocery store in line, like somebody I just meet. I don't go, oh, yeah, my son has, I'm still myself there. But on Jace's journey, the Crohn's thing, I can talk about what me as a parent is going through and the difficulties Jace is going through. And it has brought a lot of awareness. A lot of people are like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And I go, yeah, me neither. Till Jace got it. And this is what we're dealing with.
Do you ever, I don't know why this thought just came to my mind, but knowing like your story and what you're going through all day, have you found yourself becoming more critical of people? And like when you see people and they have like, I don't know, they flip you off driving or whatever, which happens here like every other day. And it just, have you found
So I got
that?
a good perspective.
Yeah.
Here's what I think. Now, I try to do this, and it's not always right. But let's say it was me flipping someone off because I had a horrible day.
Correct.
Nobody knows what I went through that day. So I think that also with people, when somebody is rude to me, I always like try to touch their arm. Like I'll play pickleball and I'm like, seriously, dude, you just missed it and you're freaking out, get mad. And I just like try to touch their arm and, say, hey, it's okay. It's all right. Because I'm thinking, I don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally. They could be going through something worse. Now I know there's a family that just lost their little girl to a car accident. And I'm not comparing because my journey is horrible, but my child's still alive. I get to love on my child. So what if I came across that parent and they are flipping me off or whatever? I can't go, what the hell? Look what I'm going through. I don't know what they're going through. So I try not to take stuff like that personally.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that always works because the other day somebody almost hit me. I'm like, what the? I was like, are you, later on I can let it go or whatever. But when people are straight up rude to me to my face in the grocery store or whatever, I always try to think like, if they're acting that way, there's got to be a reason. Their heart's probably pretty heavy somewhere, And so then, I try to let that go and focus on my own crap because I got enough to deal with. I don't want to deal with theirs. Right. So I really try to put that in perspective. It doesn't always work. I'm not perfect. Believe me. I've thrown a finger or two, I think, in my life. But then I'm like, what am I doing? That's so stupid. It's a vehicle. I mean, like, who cares or whatever? But I try to really put myself like they must be having a bad day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. And I always think too, sometimes like they don't deserve my energy.
Yeah.
Like it's low as it is, and I need to conserve it for the people that matter. And that is not where it's going to go.
Well, that's a good perspective. Or what I do sometimes is like, I've been holding stuff in all day. I use that moment to let it out, which is not good. Yeah. So that's when I say I'm not always, I have that perspective. Sometimes I'm like, I have been kind all damn day. I'm telling. So I kind of feel like that too sometimes. So my energy has been building up. Sometimes it comes out. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, it's just human nature.
That's why I take a lot of deep breaths though too. I'm learning to breathe. That whole, when you were talking about analogies and stuff about fill your cup up. The way I always look at it is when they say, if you're on an airplane and you want to save your child, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
So I always try to get up each day and try to have a good morning to build myself up for what I have to endure throughout the rest of the day. So that's my way of putting on my oxygen mask in the morning is, taking care of myself in the morning, doing something for myself. That way I can give the rest of my day to my son.
Why do you think it's hard for people to do that? Or like even in a journey like this?
Because I grew up in a very difficult childhood. That's for another podcast. But I truly believe God set me up. I remember praying one day, God, you give me what child you think I need to have because I don't think these children are ours. I think children are put on this earth and we're here to take care of them. I don't think like that kid belongs to me. I have a foster daughter that I raised and she ended up going back to her birth mom or whatever. But I still talk to her, but I was there put in her life for a reason. And I think some of the things I had to endure during my childhood set me up to be a better parent. And I think maybe some people maybe didn't have it difficult enough when they were growing up or something, but I did. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I know that, I grew up not having any food in the cupboard. I grew up really tough. So I try to focus on like, maybe that's why my freezer's stocked too, but I always keep food. It makes me feel good to see a lot of food in the pantry and all that. But I always
Well,
try
we're
to
all
focus a little.
preppers.
Yeah.
We're all
Well, that's
preppers in
true.
the
That too.
north.
But I think I can remember my past and know that there's a lot of good in my life too, that now I'm here for a reason. And maybe some people that can't deal with this, maybe they didn't, I don't know, maybe I can just speak for myself. I don't know why, again, I don't know what they've gone through, but I know that I've had it real difficult. So I've got a great roof over my head. We're set to where we're not wealthy. We struggle. It's a one income family. My husband's still working at almost 60 and he will be until he has to retire. But in a lot of ways, I could be a single parent. I think about them, a single parent living in, like I see people living in campers and trailers. I couldn't imagine doing this with Jace. He has his own bathroom, thank God. We have a second floor. So there's a lot of positives to the way what we're going through. When I know a lot of people with kids with special needs are struggling way harder than me. So I can't judge them and I can't say why somebody's dealing with it differently. Because I think everybody's got their own journey and there's things people have deep inside their hearts and their minds that they probably can't talk about, that maybe that's stopping them from healing and moving through this.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. There's so much value in this hour we just had. Some big key takeaways that I've held on to is definitely self-care. Take care of yourself. You can't take care of your child without putting on that oxygen mask. That's a great analogy. And then just the amazing perspective of taking one day at a time, but getting away to take a break and, rein it in so you can continue to show up for your kid or whoever you need to show up for. As we close out, where do you get your strength? You're like the most resilient person ever.
Well, I grew up in a family of 10.
Okay.
I had 7 brothers, got picked on like crazy, which I'm glad because it made me tough. And, I think I got my strength from growing up in old school times where, the street lights came on and I came home and I had to fend for myself. Now, my husband grew up with just his mom, and you can imagine how spoiled he was. I grew up completely different, garage sales, everything. So yeah, I grew up tough. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But also just the love for my child.
Yeah.
Like it's no other. Like before you have kids, you love your husband, you love your wife, but it's a completely different feeling. You would absolutely do anything for them.
Right.
And one thing I want to let other parents know is you had a takeaway. My takeaway, one thing that I've been thinking about during this conversation is, these kids are going to be angry at you because you're the safest person to release their frustrations on. And at first, when Jace was doing that, it hurt me really bad. But then now I know when he's mad and angry, he finds me safe to let that out on me. And I've got to be able to endure that. And that I have to have strength for that. I'm not saying it's okay for him to sometimes mouth off to me, but I let him know. I go, I get why you're getting mad. I understand, but I deserve respect too. And I try before I'd be like, are you freaking kidding me? I'd nut up. I'd get like, you don't talk because old school. But then I got to understand this is we're in a unique situation. This is just not, a bratty 16-year-old wanting to take the car keys and you said no or whatever. He's dealing with a lot. And I've got to be a
Right.
mama where he can bounce stuff off me, and I've got to be able to be resilient and soak that in and say, it's okay. I know you're mad right now and you don't mean what you say.
Well, that's truly just an amazing mindset. I mean, it goes against our nature, you know.
Yeah.
We want to fight back and be reactive to everything, but just the
Yeah.
thought of being curious, I wonder why, like, where is he coming from? Why is that happening?
Yeah.
Other than just like, wow.
Yeah. I
Uh,
know he loves me, and that's why he's using me as a backboard, so to speak.
yeah,
You know, he wouldn't do that. I mean, he is the sweetest, politest kid. He opens doors for he's that way, but with his mama, sometimes he takes things out on me, but that's my job. I'm supposed to be his strength. I'm supposed to absorb that anger, take a deep breath, and just say, I know you're angry right now. I'm
yeah,
not saying I do that all the time. Sometimes I get frustrated and have to walk away too, but I just want other parents to know that they're taking their anger out on you because they know you're safe and you're there for them, and you won't. The next day you're going to get up and love them no matter what.
right, right.
It's important to realize that.
So you're in the waiting game now. The 14th, you said,
Yeah,
is the
the
big date,
14th, the
and
14th, and
so
I'll be staying in a hotel down there for the first week probably, and just because I think it's important to be their advocate, because when they're coming out of it and they're sick and they're hurt, I want to make sure that, like I said, nurses and doctors I love, but nurses are freaking awesome. They do everything.
yes,
They're
yes,
The doctors give the instructions. They're the brains. The nurses are just brains, physical, they're just so awesome. But you know what? You do get once in a while a nurse that's had a really rough week or a bad day. And I want to make sure, hey, I want to be there for my son to make sure that he's getting the care he needs. He's always going to be my baby. So I'm always going to watch out for him. So yeah, I'm going to stay down there for a week
yeah,
and stay in a
okay.
hotel. And, husband's working a little overtime to get that done. But, you do what you have to do to be there for your child. It is what it is.
Yeah, just make it happen. Well, you guys will
Yep.
definitely
Make it happen.
be in our prayers. We'll be in
Thank you.
touch. And
All right. I know you will.
I love your mindset, and I definitely want to rope you into Unspecial in some capacity. So we're starting to think through kind of the year ahead and where we want to go with it. So we'll be in touch.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of other perspectives on bringing up a child with special needs, not just his Crohn's. There's a lot of difficulties we hit and we've overcome. So I'd love to be able to share that, to be
Yeah,
able to help somebody. That's why we all need to kind of stick together to help each other.
right. And we're in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be rolling out our first community group of parents. So we have 5 that are ready to go. So we're going to pilot a group and see how it goes. So I would love to have you a part of that. And
Yeah, this could be really something that I can just sink my teeth into too, because
yeah,
I like to share. I
yeah.
like to learn. I want to learn too,
Uh,
so
and
I'm
that's
on
kind
board.
of that hearing all the stories from parents through my teaching days. I'm like, all you guys just need to talk. Like
Yeah.
what you're saying, it could help this other parent that I was just talking to, and
Yep.
then this one, and then it was just like, so
That's
we're
because we're all
excited.
wrapped up in our we needed somebody like you, Zach, to pull us together.
Just
It's
bridge
not
it all
something we
together.
think about. You know what I mean? We don't think
Right.
about like, hey, well, who do I reach out to? We're just in survival mode right now. So,
Yeah.
to have an avenue like this and have somebody pull this together is awesome. So thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Zach, very much for
And,
doing this.
and a quick plug. I got a book coming out here probably in the next 2 months. I wrote a short book. It's 10 stories from my teaching days. And then it's all related to the Bible and how I saw God in all my students and their specific, unique needs. And so it's being edited right now. I'll make sure to send you a copy. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'd love it.
You'll definitely, that you know me, you'll see my sense of humor in my stories.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be funny.
But you have to have a sense of humor. It's my first podcast, and it was easy.
It's just an
just
easy
talking to friends.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Judy.
All right.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Unspecial podcast. We understand that navigating the world of special needs can feel incredibly isolated. At Unspecial, we are dedicated to breaking down those barriers. If you want to hear another inspiring story, check out the video right here, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to support our mission.